these 11 cities could run out of drinking water, and you'll be shocked which cities they are. Last year, Cape Town was the first city to face possibility of running out of drinking water after having gone through 2 years of drought. Water scarcity in South Africa is an example of a problem that threatens cities all over the world. According to a 2014 survey including 500 largest cities in the world, about 25% experience water stress. The following is a list of 11 cities across the world that could run out of water in the future. It's compiled by BBC. It's by Christina Novo, Smart Water Magazine. We're directed there from The Conversation. The first is Sao Paulo. Now, the image I'm showing you is Cairo, and I found it fascinating because, Cairo's got the Nile River running through it. How could it face a water shortage from drinking water? That didn't sound logical to me. But number one is Sao Paulo in Brazil, the most populous city in Brazil, among the 10 most populated in the world, and it went through a water crisis similar to the one in Cape Town in 2015. At the time, the city's main reservoir was less than 4% capacity, leaving more than 20 million residents with less than 20 days of water supply. The situation resulted from a drought that affected the country's southeast since 2014, combined with inadequate planning and investments by the authorities. Although by 2016 the situation improved, again in early 2017, the city's water reserves were 15% below expected for the period, casting doubts about the future of the water supply. The second city is Bangalore of South India, known as India's tech capital, has been on the rise, with local authorities struggling to keep up providing water and sanitation services. The city's aging water network reportedly loses over half of its drinking water, so they've got to fix the pipes, obviously. To complicate things, the city's lakes are so polluted that 85% of them could only be used for irrigation or industrial cooling. The study found none of them had water of drinking quality. Number 3, China. Beijing or Peking. Beijing has a problem. According to the World Bank, water scarcity entails less than 1,000 cubic meters of fresh water per person per year. Beijing's 20 million residents had to live with only 145 cubic meters in 2014. Water pollution also afflicts the city, where 40% of surface water is not suitable even for agricultural or industrial uses. With almost 20% of the world's population, China only has 7% of the world's fresh water. Estimates from a study by Columbia University point to a 13% decline in China's water reserves from the year 2000 to 2009, 13% decline. China is trying to address water problems with structural measures through water diversion projects and measures to encourage water saving by domestic and business users. And then we come to Cairo, of course. This is the picture that you're seeing. The Nile, lifeline of civilization in Egypt since antiquity, faces serious threats now. It provides up to 97% of the country's water, but receives increasing amounts of untreated waste discharges as well. So in terms of water pollution-related deaths, Egypt is quite high in the ranking compared with lower middle income countries, according to WHO. UN estimates forecast important water shortages by 2025. Jakarta, Indonesia is number 5. Indonesia's capital, sitting on the coast, faces rising sea levels, and it's sinking at one of the fastest rates in the world. It's due to human action, since piped water is not reliable or available to many of the city's 10 million residents. They resort to illegal groundwater extraction, draining aquifers under the city, which means that this whole city is sinking that way. Heavy rain floods the city, but cannot replenish the aquifers because of low soil permeability. Asphalt and concrete do not allow the rain to infiltrate into the ground. And number 6 is Moscow. In Russia, up to 70% of Moscow's water supply comes from surface water, but Russia's water resources suffer from pollution problems as a result of industrial discharge during the Soviet era. The country's regulatory authorities acknowledge that from 35% to 60% of the drinking water reserves in Russia do not meet sanitary requirements. Then you've got Istanbul in Turkey, the ancient Constantinople. I've been there 3 times, and there's a permanent stink in the air of the city, a permanent stink. I've never smelled that before anywhere, really. Turkey meets the definition of a country experiencing water stress. The water supply was below 1,700 cubic meters per person in 2016. According to official data, local experts predicted a deterioration of the situation to water scarcity by the year 2030. Densely populated areas like Istanbul, with 14 million people, recently experienced water shortage during the driest part of the year. In early 2014, the city's reservoir levels fell below 30% capacity. Another populated city, Mexico City, has a problem. Residents in Mexico's capital, more than 21 million people, familiar with water shortages, up to 20% of them only have running water for a few hours every week, and another 20% far better with running water part of the day. Up to 40% of the city's water comes from distant areas, and water losses in the distribution network as high as 40%. So again, it's a problem with the water, just like we had in India. They've got to fix the pipes because they're losing about half their water from the broken pipes. So the city has no large-scale scheme to recycle the water. And then we've got London. That's a surprise. London, scarcity of water. It's a surprise. London made it into the list of cities facing water shortages. In fact, average annual rainfall in this city is less than the average in Paris, and it's half of New York's. London obtains 80% of its water from Thames and Lea rivers. The city's authorities warned that it could face water supply issues by the year 2025 and serious shortages by 2040. Likely water-wise measurements like hosepipe bans will become more and more common in the future. And another very populated city that's got a problem is Tokyo. Minimum rainfall in Japan's capital similar to that of Seattle, known as the rainy city, concentrating around 4 months of the year. Therefore, rainwater is collected to be used during the remaining months, and some 750 buildings in Tokyo use rainwater collection systems. With more than 30 million residents in Tokyo, the city depends on surface water for 70% of its supply. The city has recently invested in the water network to reduce loss to only 3%. Then it's Miami, Florida, one of the 5 U.S. states with most rain every year. Miami is best known, could be facing a water crisis in the future. In the early 20th century, draining swamps close to the city resulted in saltwater intrusion, contaminating the city's main water source, the Biscayne Aquifer. Even though underground defense barriers were installed to prevent this from happening, sea level rise led to saltwater breaching those barriers. Hallandale Beach, north of Miami, already had to close 6 of its 8 wells due to saltwater intrusion. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.